Managing the urban environment. Urbanization. Today, over 50% of the world population lives in urban areas. The migration of people from rural areas to urban areas in search of job and better living conditions resulted in concentration of population in cities. This is known as urbanization. Impact of urbanization. The main impact of urbanization on plants and animals is loss of habitat. Urbanization increased the demand of resources and more consumption of energy, increased pollution and more generation of waste. It has resulted in the development of slums where the poor migrants settle. It also created sprawls, which refer to dispersed development unit outside compact urban and village centers along highways. Urbanization leads to food and water shortage, poor sanitization leading to health problems and spread of diseases, increase in demand for jobs in the cities and increase in crime rate, increase in unemployment leads to poverty and illiteracy. Sustainable cities need of the hour. A sustainable city or eco-city is designed keeping in mind environmental impact inhabited by people with a goal to minimization of required inputs of energy, water and food and waste output of heat, air pollution, carbon dioxide, methane and water pollution. Richard Register first coined the term eco-city in 1987. Generally, developmental experts agree that a sustainable city should meet the needs of the present without sacrificing the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Such a city should have a minimum ecological footprint. It should produce least pollution, use renewable energy, recycle waste, composting of organic material to manure. Thus, the city's contribution to climate change should be minimum. Renewable energy sources should be used, such as wind turbines, solar panels, or biogas can be created from sewage. Eco-friendly buildings can be designed which will have proper light and ventilation, thus would save energy on lighting and air conditioning. Use of public transport like city buses, local trains, metro and carpools reduces the vehicular emission. Use of clean fuel like CNG in the government vehicles reduces the air pollution and also conserves fossil fuel. Zoning of city into different categories like city area, industries, etc. Planning green belt to prevent pollution and cooling the temperature. Planning sustainable urban drainage system. Plans should be made for proper disposal of waste. Auroville in South India is a model of sustainable city which is eco-city. Migration is the movement of people from the rural areas to urban areas in search of jobs and better lifestyle. The migration of people add an additional demand on the city to provide for shelter, food, infrastructure, service and employment. Migration leads to congestion and pollutions. Planning environmental improvement. Efficient land use. Land is used for many purposes. It is used for housing, industry, services, transport and infrastructure. Proper planning and assessment of the land use should be done before taking up any project. The efficiency of land use can be increased by appropriate settlement planning and development. Land use planning is a term used for a branch of public policy consisting of various disciplines which intend to order and regulate land use in an efficient and ethical way. It is the systematic assessment of land and water potential, alternatives for land use and economic and social conditions in order to select and adopt the best land use options. A land use plan gives a vision for the future possibilities of development. Planning energy. Energy planning is the process of developing long-range policies to help guide future of local, regional or even the global energy system. It is the government who plans out the energy requirements of the cities. The energy must be sufficient for the number of people living in the urban area, affordable and non-polluting. It must also be able to supply energy to the industries in the urban areas. India has a large deficit of energy as growing population needs more energy. At present, about 70% of India's energy is obtained from fossil fuel, that is coal. India is largely dependent on fossil fuel imports to meet its energy demands by 2030. India's dependence on energy imports is expected to exceed 53% of the country's total energy consumption. Hence, India would be looking towards alternative energies which are cheaper, less polluting and easily available like solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, biomass energy, nuclear energy, etc. Shelter. Sustainable urban development means achieving social equity and environmental protection while minimizing the cost of urbanization. Sustainable urban development means achieving a balance between the development of the urban areas and protection of the environment with a concern for equity in employment, shelter, basic services, social infrastructure, and transportation in the urban areas. With rapid expansion of urban population around the world, there is an appreciable concern about minimizing the environmental cost of urbanization. Environmental damages and depletion of non-renewable resources and rising level of pollution in urban areas are becoming a matter of concern. In recent times, cities have become places of urban environmental degradation and wasteful use of resources, which is proving to be costly to the present generation as well as future. While planning a sustainable city, we must be aware of the climatic change factors. The migration of people adds to the deterioration of the environmental health of the cities. Urban sprawls and slums develop due to the migration of people to the urban centers. They must be avoided and rather a small, well-planned city can come up with all basic facilities. Poor migrating people do not have enough money to afford a proper housing and start living in slums. Urban sprawl is the spreading of urban developments like houses and shopping centers on undeveloped areas near a city or along the highways. Overcrowding is common in urban areas and the urban poor cannot afford a decent housing. This results in development of slums. Slum is defined as a densely populated, usually urban area marked by crowding, dirty housing, poverty and social disorganization. The government must provide shelter for people living below poverty line at a subsidized rate with all essential amenities like clean drinking water, sanitization, power supply, healthcare center, etc. Urban transport. Urban transport can be in many forms ranging from simple bicycle to metro rail. The use of public transport should be encouraged. The government has the responsibility to provide for the public transport. In India, public transport is the important mode of motorized local travel in cities. This is predominantly by road since commuter rail services are available only in the 7 metropolitan cities of Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, Bangalore, Hyderabad and Pune, and other modes of transport can be auto rickshaw and taxis. The two-wheelers and car account for major part of urban transport. The government should plan the roads and signals in such a way that the traffic congestion can be minimized. The use of alternative fuels like CNG should be encouraged. Delhi state government has set an example by converting the state-owned public transport buses into CNG driven. Soon many of the private buses, auto and car also converted to CNG. The main aim should be to reduce vehicular pollution, which is the cause for global warming, acid rain, smog and many other health problems. Water supply management, wastewater and sanitary waste management. The urban population is growing rapidly and is exerting a great pressure on the existing urban services. The local urban government are entrusted with the task of providing the basic services like water supply, wastewater management, sanitation, and solid waste management. Studies have shown that the management of water supply, wastewater, and sanitation is better in metropolitan cities than the small cities. This is the main reason for the flocking of the people from rural areas and small cities to the metropolitan cities. More fund is allocated and is spent in the metropolitan cities in this respect. The water crisis is related to improper distribution system. Also, the sources of water are depleting due to the increasing population, wastewater, and the pollution of the sources. Constant supply of water can be maintained by fixing the above mentioned problems. Proper water distribution system has to be planned out considering the number of household. Water has to be allocated to centers other than household, for example, industries, offices, hospitals, educational institutions, marketplace, etc. The water should be treated and should not contain any health threatening substances or pathogens. The water bodies should not be polluted. Sewage must be treated before it is let out into the water bodies. The industry should be given strict instructions against water pollution and the effluent discharge should be regularly monitored. Contamination of water bodies with sewage containing detergents and runoff containing fertilizers supply excesses of nutrients like nitrates and phosphates. The water bodies which help the phytoplanktons to multiply rapidly and cause algal bloom. This further leads to eutrophication, a condition in which the water bodies become devoid of oxygen. Water tariff should be rationalized and made a deterrent to wastage of water. Water meters have to be fixed for the purpose. People should be encouraged to harvest rainwater. It is general practice to use groundwater by individual households where there is a water deficit. Water disposal and treatment is a major problem in India. Non-collection of wastewater and discharge of untreated water into the water bodies cause land and water pollution. Most of the cities have a planned sewage system. Wastewater generated is usually 80% of the water consumption. People have their own water sources such as borewell, which adds up to the unaccounted wastewater generation. However, survey indicate that the wastewater treatment situation is quite alarming. While the smaller size urban centers with sewage system treat less than 1/4 of the wastewater generated, even the metropolitan cities treat only about 2/5 of the wastewater generated. Wastewater disposal is done both on hand and in water bodies by most urban centers. Following steps could be taken. The number of wastewater treatment plants should be increased to ensure the complete treatment of the urban wastewater. Collection of wastewater should be improved. Rehabilitation of sewage system must be taken up in all the cities where the existing system have become non-functional. Separate stormwater drains should be constructed to decrease the volume of wastewater treatment. Recycling and reuse of wastewater should be encouraged. Currently, recycled wastewater is used for irrigation and cleaning purposes. It is mandatory for the industries to treat their effluents before it is discharged into the water bodies. Pollution of land or water body with untreated wastewater should be made punishable. Solid waste management in India had always remained a problem. The per capita waste generation has a correlation to the size class of urban centers, that is, the larger the urban center, the most the waste generated. The collection efficiency of solid waste is much better in larger cities than the smaller urban cities. The municipal corporation has the responsibility to provide for a proper waste disposal system. The waste bins are placed in the community areas for the collection of solid waste. The main method of waste disposal in India continues to be open dumping in most urban centers. It is not a very good method of waste disposal because the waste keep rotting, attract vectors of diseases and contaminate land and water. Many urban centers have landfill sites and often waste is not disposed in these landfill sites because the sites are far away from the city and the transportation costs become high. Hospital waste should be collected separately and incinerated with other hazardous waste. People should be taught segregation of waste and separation bins should be placed for degradable, non-biodegradable waste and recyclable waste. Composting is a good option for degrading the organic waste. The municipal corporation is often in shortage of trained staff for handling solid waste and even the number of vehicles might be less than the actual requirement. Transportation fleet need to be maintained well and need to be modernized to improve collection and transportation efficiency. The 3 R's of solid waste management, that is reduce, reuse and recycle, must be adopted by all urban centers. This will help in reducing the quantity of solid waste to be disposed of. People's participation must be encouraged to keep cities clean. Construction activities, buildings, infrastructure and the environment are inextricably interlinked. These concrete structures become part of our living environment, affecting our living conditions, social well-being and health. It is therefore important to explore environmentally and economically sound design and development techniques in the designing buildings and infrastructure that are sustainable, healthy and affordable. The concept of sustainability in building and construction has evolved over many years. Initially, the focus was on how to deal with the issues of limited resources like energy and how to reduce impacts on the natural environment. However, in the recent times, the socio-economic and cultural aspects are also considered important along with environmental. Green buildings are designed to reduce the overall impact of the building environment on human health and the natural environment by efficiently using energy, water and other resources, protecting occupant health and improving employee productivity, reducing waste, pollution and environmental degradation, using eco-friendly construction material. The construction should allow enough of light and air to save energy. Rainwater harvesting and water recycling units would add up to the eco-friendliness. Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design (LEED) is a set of rating system for the design, construction, operation and maintenance of green buildings, homes and neighborhoods. Rural development to counter migration. Counter urbanization is moving from city back to rural areas. A majority of the poor in rural areas depend mainly on the wages they earn through unskilled labor. They are often on the brink of subsistence and are vulnerable to chronic poverty. In case of inadequate labor demand or in the face of unpredictable crises like natural calamities, natural disaster or personal like ill health, all of which adversely impact their employment opportunities. In a context of poverty and unemployment, wage employment programs provide unskilled manual workers with short-term employment on public works such as irrigation, infrastructure, reforestation, soil conversion, road construction, etc. These programs generate income for poor households during critical times. The government has implemented wage employment programs that offered wage employment on public works on minimum wages. The wage employment program started at National Rural Employment Program (NREP), Rural Landless Employment Guarantee Program, Jawahar Rozgar Yojana. The Jawahar Rozgar Yojana was merged with Jawahar Gram Samriddhi Yojana and National Food for Work, are same of the government scheme to provide wage employment. The step that could be taken to counter migration can be summarized as follows. Provision of basic infrastructure in the rural areas like school, healthcare, roads, sanitization, safe drinking water. Improving agricultural productivity. Implementing government schemes to increase agricultural productivity. Assistance to individual families living below poverty line. Helping the poor, especially the farmers, in obtaining credit, loans and subsidy. Helping the skilled laborers and artisans market their product. Empowering rural women. Self-employment training programs. Secondary cities. These are the cities which are developed a few kilometers away from the main urban center to reduce the pressure of migration. It has a population between 5 lakh to 3 million inhabitants. It is well planned and has all the facilities of the main city, which is the primate city like healthcare, educational institutions, shopping centers, transportation, etc. Secondary cities have their own socio-economic and political culture that may differ from other cities such as private cities. Many developing countries view it as a way to strengthen the economy and promote the growth of secondary cities to stimulate the economics of surrounding rural areas. It helps to slow down migration to large urban areas. The main idea is to reduce the migration of population to the bigger cities. Let us study the steps that can be taken to reduce large-scale migration to the cities. Setup of large-scale industries that can provide employment to large number of people in secondary cities. Industrial incentives to the industries in special industrial zones near the secondary cities. Provision of adequate infrastructures in the secondary cities like educational, institutional, training centers, hospitals, marketplaces, transport facilities, recreational areas, etc. Development of efficient transport facility connecting the secondary cities to the major cities. Strengthening the economy of the secondary cities. Government housing at a subsidized rate could facilitate the movement from major urban centers to the secondary city. Strengthening the local government to plan, implement and monitor the programs for sanitation, water and electricity and other basic amenities effectively. Some examples of secondary cities in India are Mumbai with a string of secondary cities like Navi Mumbai, Bhayandar, Mira Road, Thane, Kalyan, Bhiwandi. NCR of Delhi includes the neighboring cities of Alwar, Bagpat, Gurgaon, Sonipat, Faridabad, Ghaziabad, Noida, Greater Noida and nearby towns. Community participation. Naik Waits defined community as a group of people sharing common interest and living together in a geographically defined area. The word participation is defined as an act of being involved in something. Community participation means involvement of people with similar goals and needs in decisions affecting their lives. Charles Abraham defined community participation as the theory that the local people should be given active role in programs and improvements directly affecting it. Community participation brings many lasting benefits to people are. It promotes sense of ownership and control amongst people. It leads to improved outcome in relation with healthcare, employment, education, income, life satisfaction, etc. It improves the economy and living standards of people as everyone shares the benefits. It lessens the cost of labor as people themselves participate in the activities to be conducted. It creates better network amongst people and encourages social participation. It encourages sharing of ideas, knowledge and innovations. Community participation in keeping surrounding clean. Community participation in rural water supply and sanitation projects provides members of the community the opportunity to influence the decision-making processes. It is especially important because poor sanitation leads to several diseases like diarrhea, jaundice, typhoid, malaria, etc. The first thing that could be done is that the community as a whole should pledge to keep the surrounding clean. An awareness program could be conducted for the community to explain the importance of keeping surrounding clean and how can it to be achieved. Constant dialogue between the planners and community help in planning of the activities, as the local people have the best location specific knowledge and indigenous knowledge. The community can take up cleanliness drive to keep the surroundings, build community toilets, help in safe disposal of garbage, converting organic waste into manure or biogas, etc. Some countries like Ghana and Nigeria celebrate Sanitation Day, where people get together and clean the roads and drains. In Lagos, Nigeria, the authorities hold a monthly cleanup day. By law, the last Saturday of every month is Sanitation Day in Lagos. The entire city comes to a stop as people spend hours sweeping the streets and cleaning up trash. Participation of private enterprises in city improvement. The private sector is the part of the country's economic system that is run by individuals and companies rather than the government. Most private sector organizations are run with the intention of making profit. They derive their profit from the consumers in the cities. Let us evaluate how can the private enterprises help in city improvement. The private sector create job opportunities for the people. They bring economic prosperity to the city as well as its people. Some private enterprises work for the city in partnership with the government, including waste management, water management, healthcare, transport, and security services. Private sector, as part of their social responsibility, allot funds for carrying out awareness campaigns on issues like environmental issues, literacy programs, social evils like child labor, helping the poor families and destitute, etc. Measures to increase private enterprise participation. Following measures could be taken to increase the private enterprise participation in urban development. Tax incentives must be given to the industries who build housing, schools, hospitals, playground, roads, etc. The Government of India gives tax rebate to the private enterprises that take up social responsibilities in the field of literacy, empowering women, creating environmental awareness, etc. Tax incentives should be given to the private enterprises who grant loans to its employees for building houses. Different electricity and water tariff for the industrial sector enables the government to collect more revenue. That's all for today. Till then, stay tuned for more audiobooks on ICSE Environmental Science. Happy learning. Bye bye.